Welcome back to another chess game analysis video. So today I don't want to show you one of my own games, but rather a game of two chess pros. This game was played by Cameron Shirasi against Anthony Miles. Miles, a very strong British player that is quite famous. And I chose this game because it features a very nice opening and because I'm still searching a little bit for answers with black against e4. And in this game, Anthony Miles actually played a brilliant game, I think, with knight c6, the Nimzowitsch defense, which is hardly ever played on Grandmaster level as far as I'm concerned. I don't know a lot of games that featured this opening, even though the engine actually says that this is perfectly fine, and it features a couple of very nice ideas that I want to show you in this video as well. d4, now black allowed d4, so you play it. e5 striking the center, now you give white space advantage and he kicks your knight again with d5. Knight c e7, now it looks a little bit cluttered what black is doing, but it's actually perfectly fine, it's still theory. c4, now you let white have another pawn in the center. Knight g6, now you move your knight 3 times, but the knight is very nicely here. It doesn't block the other knight, and black can develop with a lot of harmony between the pieces. Bishop e3, now bishop b4 check. Knight d2, knight f6. So you see black already pretty well developed and is ready to castle. f3 stabilizing the center. Queen e7, which is development move again. Rook c1, bringing the rook into the game. d6. Now you try at some point to attack and destabilize white's very nice center. At some point you need to do this, otherwise you're just worse with a space disadvantage. Knight h3 development, castles. Bishop e2, a5. Now you try to with this very nice harmony here of the black pieces, you try to attack here on the queen side with your pieces. Destabilize white's pawn structure there and try to maybe win a pawn or something. With a3 immediately asking the bishop a question. Bishop c5, now trading yourself off for white's dark square bishop. Knight b3 attacking the queen, queen a5. You see the queen still here, not letting white castle anytime soon. With d6, now this is a little bit of an interesting choice here. This pawn can definitely give white space advantage, but it can also become a weakness, as we're gonna see later on in the game. a5 gaining, a4 gaining space and kicking the knight. Knight a1, rook e1, rook e8. Now bring the rook into the center. c5. Now you defend your pawn, which is very far advanced, which is certainly good. But now b6. The pawn structure is now destabilized. You know you always attack the root of the pawn structure. White now finally is ready to castle, but b takes c5. Now black is up a pawn, but white is basically arguing that with this pawn structure you're gonna at some point win back one of the pawns, and that you still have space advantage with white. So bishop c4. Queen b6, interestingly enough, a lot of these moves are just best moves. It's a classical game as far as I could research this. Rook f2, now defending the pawn. h6, creating breathing room. Now you have all the time in the world with black. Rook d2, now this pawn is very nicely defended, so it's basically a good pawn at this point of the game. Rook a5, now trying to activate the rook. Knight f2, bring the knight into the game. Bishop a6. Now you trade off this very nice bishop for your own bishop, which is basically behind its own pawn structure. So it's definitely a good idea strategically with black, especially because now you have an open b file as well. The rook can come in here, pressure this backwards pawn. Knight c2, knight f4, knight e3. Now a little bit of a maneuvering of the knights. Knight e6. This pawn is now also nicely defended, so it's on white to actually prove compensation here for the pawn. Knight c4 attacking the queen, queen b5. So knight d3. The knights are pretty nice here on both sides actually, because of the bishop pair already has been traded off. Knight d4, a very nice outpost for the knight here that Miles has created rook c3, knight b3, attacking the rook, rook f2, moving the rook, and now the magic basically happens, which I think is a very nice combination. Basically, it's not winning, but it's very hard now to play with white, because black in this position played knight d5, just sacrificing an entire piece. And the engine says it's still equal if you just move your rook back, which was attacked, rook cc2, and somehow try to hold this as a draw with white. Black is a little bit better, but this is nothing concrete, and you don't really have a very nice way of attacking and exploiting your advantage here. So this would have been equal, but white here took the knight, e takes d5, which is already a little bit questionable, because after c takes d5, it's still playable for white, but it's just very difficult, I think, for a human to actually hold this position, because now you have 3 pawns here, which are very nasty. And there are already problems. If you just move the knight to e3, then you have like d5, d4 is coming, rook is attacked, knight is attacked, black is getting back some of the material, and it might be equal, but it's still hard to play. Now it's suddenly black who has very nice pawns, a nice knight here, a lot of activity. So an alternative here, he took in the game, he took here on c5, in e5. An alternative would have been to move the knight back to d2, which wouldn't be much better, because d4 again. And now you at some point have to give up the rook for the knight, a takes. And for instance, queen takes b3, queen trade, c4, forking the knights. We have knight b4 attacking the rook. Rook takes pawn, and now you basically have a rook and 2 pawns for a knight pair, which you can assess for yourself. I would have said, with the pawns being such a lot of pawns in the center and the rooks nicely placed, black is better in this position, but I think you still need to play this position out. This is something that could have happened here if you tried actually to save the knight. In the game, knight c takes e5 happened. c4 now kicking one of the knights. Knight b4. And now the knight on e5 is not defended anymore. Rook takes e5, but this loses a rook. Knight takes a6, queen takes a6. And again, we have a weird material constellation where basically black has sacrificed a knight only for sacrificed a rook only for a pawn and a knight, but because of the activity of the pieces, look at the knight, very nice outpost, the pawns here. The rooks really don't have access to the game, so black is actually better here, especially because this pawn is also weak and it's going to fall at some point. g3. Creating breathing room for the king, and now you need to be careful not to immediately grab the pawn, because rook takes c4, and now destabilizing the position, and the pawn is pinned, and the a pawn is probably gonna fall, and this is an equal position now, where you have a knight for a pawn, a knight and a pawn for a rook, but now it's basically black who has to try to argue that he has got a draw here. So instead of taking the pawn, the better move is to play d4, now kicking the rook, and again, moving the rook, you just get, the pawns are just rolling, and I think it's very dangerous to actually keep this knight here on b3, so play with the white pieces now, took the pawn, took the knight, c takes b3, a little bit of an inaccuracy. I think you should leave the c pawn there and take with the a pawn. Now these pawns are very impressive already. And the engine says that being up a pawn, this position is winning for black. C takes b3 is a little bit harder to actually play, but it's still winning, I think, for black. Queen takes d4, rook e6. And now the interesting thing is, now the pawn is double attacked and you're going to win it with black. If you try to defend it with the rook, you need to be careful as well with white not to get checkmated in 2 moves. So there is already some poison in the position. So play with the white pieces, realize this, and he moved his queen instead of defending the pawn. But this now just wins a pawn. And so black managed with all these combinations to actually win 1 pawn in this variation and is now objectively winning in this endgame being up this very nice D pawn, which is a pass pawn, which can be pushed at some point. So sometimes I'm a little bit wondering after like 36 moves, okay, so all this combination and stuff and things just to win a pawn, but a pawn on Grandmaster level is a lot actually. And now it's just a matter of how to actually convert this, which I think Miles has done very nicely. So white here played king g2, queen c6 activating the queen, queen d8, check, king h7, queen e7, queen d5, h4, you need to play something with white and you're really out of moves I think. Rook c4, 6 now trying to come in here. You see the pawns are very far advanced, and if you somehow try to trade off the rooks and the b pawn can recapture, it's just winning. So g4 pushing the pawns, rook c2 now trying to trade off this rook. The rook is pinned to the king, so you don't really have a chance with white, and you need to trade it off at some point. Queen e3 now trying to recapture with the queen. And black has all the time in the world. You can just quickly a little bit advance your pawns, g6, take your time, prepare the king activation for the endgame, which we're gonna see is gonna be important. So this is certainly a very subtle but very nice move, g6 here. King g3, now you have d6, just pushing the pawns. White is a little bit paralyzed. If you take here, the pawn is just gonna recapture here. And at some point here it's already, queen trade is also possible. So white played rook e2, now rook takes e2, queen takes e2, and now queen e5, I think very nice. Forcing this queen trade, king f2, and now black queen trades, king g7, and you see why g6 was nice. Now you have an activation route of the king, king d3, king f6, f4, h5, trying to destabilize white's king side pawns. And after king, g takes h5, g takes h5. This endgame being up a pawn is completely winning for black here. King c3. You can try to now immediately go for the f pawn. After king b4, king takes f4, king takes a4, and now d5. The d pawn is just gonna be way faster than white a pawn, and this is gonna be completely winning for black. So instead of going for the f pawn right away, Miles played it a little bit differently, which I think is also a very nice approach here. King e6, king c4, and now f6. With all calmness and collected, pushes the f pawn. There is nothing that white can do here. White actually resigned in this position. I still want to show you a very nice variation and a very nice endgame technique that could have also been featured in endgame technique series. Let's say white actually fights on king b4, trying to win your a pawn. Here in this position, there's only one move that actually wins the game. I think you can try to pause the video if you want to find it. It's not that easy, I think. Very nice technique, I think. Very interesting. King d5. You sacrifice this a pawn, and then king c4. And now you basically cut off white's king. And if you just play something like king a5, then you have d4, d5. Now the pawn is rolling. And after something like a4, king c5. You don't let the king out of there. You just block with your own king. He has an a pawn, so he has to step onto the b file in every situation to actually queen his a pawn, which you're not gonna allow. King a6, king c6. You just don't allow the white king to actually get out of there and make room for his own pawn, which is a very nasty technique. a5, now pushing the pawn, d4, king a7, and you can go for the same technique here, trying to cut off the king again and make him go into Zugzwang at some point. And you can also just push a pawn. Now the white king is blocking his own pawn. You can play d4, allow him to go to a7. After d3 you can allow him to go to b8, and after d2 a6, d1 queen, a7. He's not fast enough because you have constantly blocked him to the rim of the board, which within a very nice technique, and queen d8 is checkmate. So This variation very nicely illustrates being up a pawn. I think this is a nice technique that I have to remember. Cutting off the king to the rim of the board. Very nice endgame technique, and again a game that shows that you can convert very nicely one pawn advantage in an endgame into a win. I hope you also liked the opening. I thought this was very interesting. I'm definitely going to try it out when I want to play something else than the Caro-Kann. This Nimzowitsch defense against e4, allowing him to get space advantage, shifting your knight over to the king side, developing very naturally, and then try to outplay him on the queen side. A very nice sacrifice also from Miles, sacrificing a knight for the initiative in the middle game. I thought it was a very clean game, that's why I wanted to show it to you. It features very nice opening and a nice endgame technique. I hope you liked the game just as much as I did. Send me your own games if you played some chess games so that I can analyze something. Check out my Instagram where I sometimes post stuff. Check out my Twitch where I sometimes live stream chess and university study sessions. See you in the next video. Bye.